Welcome along to the start of another themed week here on Property Tribes, a very exciting week for both Property Tribes and our friends and colleagues at Lendlord. This is the continuation of our collab, and all this week we are celebrating the launch of the new Lendlord Deal Analyser tool. And to do that, I'm going to be joined by many fantastic special guests, and also all through the week by Lendlord co-founder and CEO Aviram Shahar, who's joining us from Tel Aviv in Israel. And Aviram, we're so excited about this week, aren't we? Because this deal analysing tool that we're going to be presenting throughout the week, it's been in development for a few months now, and we didn't want to release it until it was, all singing, all dancing. It's just been released. We're getting the initial feedback from the users of Lendlord who've started to kind of test run it. But Aviram, I think the timing for this tool, it's so important. We have been promoting this digital first approach, really to encourage landlords to use the digital tools out there to help mitigate risk, help to operate their businesses more efficiently. But in this kind of post-COVID-19 world, the risks are amplified, and this deal analysing tool, it's going to help landlords make wiser decisions.
Right, and as you said, we are very excited, and it's a work that we are doing for several months together with our community and together with some advisors from the real estate industry. So it's a very exciting release for us and for the Property Tribes community. So yes, I think now if you look at the platform that we provide together with the deal analyzer, it's something that provide the landlord with a high-level overview on his portfolio, on existing properties, but also on his pipeline. So you can now analyze any new deal, any new potential acquisition, and get the metrics. And we have a short-term metrics for the first year and long-term metrics. And the long-term metrics are based on assumptions that the user can input. So we start with, some default values, but you can tweak them. And then you can decide what is the holding period. How much are you going to hold this specific property? And by that, you can see your metrics for the long term. The special thing is that you can also analyze your existing properties for the long term. And then you can compare your existing properties with your prospect ones, and also run some what-if scenarios, and you can see like how your portfolio will look in different scenarios. So it's a very powerful tool for property investors and for landlords, of course.
Indeed, and I think, when most sort of maybe less experienced landlords are analysing deals, probably the only key metric they look at is return on investment, which is, of course, a very important one. But our deal analyzer tool actually digs down a lot deeper, doesn't it?
Right. So we provide many metrics. And it's, of course, like the yield, gross yield, net yield, the return on investment, but also the cash on cash. So just like to see what will be like your return on your cash investment. And for the long term, we also provide other enhanced metrics. And we will have a session from experts that will explain what are those metrics and why they are so important to look at. And those metrics are the IRR, the internal rate of return, for the long-term period, what is your equity multiple, and also some basic things like how your property value will look if you take into account some assumptions of property appreciation, and how is your net cash flow is going to look if you take into account some assumption on rent appreciation and inflation. And another important thing is that we embedded we have a partner property data. It's a sourcing a platform. So we embedded their API. So you can also get some indications according to the postcode that you look at in terms of the historical growth of the property value and price. and the historical growth and demand in terms of rental income and some other things.
Fantastic. So it really is, you know, it's a deal analyzer on steroids, really. That's what we wanted to create. There are a lot of deal analyzers out there. They do not go into the same granular level of detail that our deal analyzer does. And indeed, this whole week on Property Tribes, we're calling it Deal Analyzer Week, but it's also kind of a themed week on steroids, because we've got lots of property investors and other experts joining us to discuss how they analyze deals, because of course everybody has a different way of doing it. That's respected, but we really want to encourage our users to take advantage of this free tool and do an extra level of granular due diligence when analysing their deals. And tomorrow we're going to be joined by Brian Spar, who is based in the States, and he is on the Lendlord Advisory Board. And Avram, Brian has contributed a great deal to this deal sourcing app, hasn't he?
Correct. Yeah, Brian is following the company in the last several months. He has a lot of experience in the real estate industry in the United States. And this is what he is doing for his living. So he is analyzing new deals for his clients. And he was part of the brainstorming we did on this tool and part of the development process. Another important thing, we already did like an internal release for like existing users of this tool and started to get feedback. This is the first like version of the deal analyzer, and we are welcoming any feedback from our existing users and our like potential new users and the Property Tribes community. So we always welcome new ideas and suggestions, and of course bug reporting. So it's very, very important to say, and feel free to send notes to me, Vanessa, Nick, any other person from the team, and just do that, and it will help us to enhance the tool.
Yes, and I think it's good to highlight once again that this was the whole kind of basis of the collaboration between Property Tribes and Lendlord, because we saw so many synergies and we really wanted to combine these digital tools with the educational backdrop that Property Tribes bring, because it kind of brings it to life. And I guess it's a little bit like, when I talk about these kind of things, I always think about when I was at school. When I was at school, we did French tuition in what was called a language lab. So you just kind of sat there with earphones on, listening and repeating. It didn't come alive for me. It was meaningless. But when I went to France on a school trip and I went into a shop and ordered some stamps in French, suddenly I had this epiphany. I'm like, oh my God, it just suddenly... it slotted into place for me. And I think part of this whole collaboration that we're doing, Avram, is, and bringing in these experts and other investors, is to bring a very rounded picture and educational backdrop to how these digital tools can enhance what you're already doing.
Exactly. And I think this is the main benefit of this collaboration between Property Tribes and Lendlord. It's the connection between the property investors, the community, with the development team, with the technology, and you know, every side like enrich the other side, and by that we can develop the ultimate product for property investors and landlords. And I think this is like the way we are acting in the last several months. Like we get a lot of feedback. And our user can say that we like enhance the platform every week. And we release like new features and new enhancements.
Yes, indeed, and in very kind of almost real time, you're making some of these upgrades and improvements. You're very, very proactive, and our existing users have commented how quickly new features have been added based on their feedback. And the app's going to be, the Deal Analyzer is going to be the same, as you say. Just to run through some of the people that we've got coming up. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by Brian Sparr from the States, as I mentioned, due to the wonders of modern technology again. We've also got John Howard. Many of you will know him. He's a property investor of 40 years experience. He has come from the analog world, and along with John's interview, learning how he analyzes deals and how he gets deals flowing towards him, we're also going to be premiering a brand new film about John, which covers his life, his property journey. Actually, it's a fantastic program, and I know you're going to really enjoy it. You see him going to auctions, talking to estate agents, and it'll be interesting to hear John's views on this kind of technology, which has only probably evolved in the last few years, sort of in the time frame of while he's been an investor. We're also going to be hearing from Ruth Hobbs, who is another property developer. I've already spoken to her. She has a very simple way of analysing deals, so it'd be interesting to hear her views. We're going to be hearing from Lex Allen of Lex Allen Estates. Lex is a RICS surveyor, and he is totally immersed in the residential property sector, and he's going to have some great insights to share. On the commercial front, we're going to be hearing from Harvey Pearson, and Harvey's going to be talking about assessing commercial deals. We've got Anthony Ayton, who is the founder of Diligent Investments and Repo List, very good commentator on this topic. And also Phil Stewardson, who is Property Tribe's member and prolific developer in the Midlands. So we've got some really fantastic people to share their insights, and we really hope to weave a story around deal analysing while bringing to life the different features of the Deal Analyzer module.
Exciting week.
It really, really is. Okay, so drum roll. This is the exciting bit now. We are going to give you a preview of the Lendlord Deal Analysing tool, and Avaram is going to give us a whistle-stop tour around the module, and we're going to see that as soon as you start to input data, your key metrics start to appear. Obviously, as we mentioned, there are headline key metrics, and then there are more granular metrics that start to come through. So over to you, Avaram.
Thanks, Vanessa. So this is the Deal Analyzer. The way it's designed is that we use a lot of default values. So basically with 3 inputs, you can see the initial metrics, and then you can start tweaking the data. So let's start first. You need to put the address. You can use the auto-completion of Google Maps. The second thing, let's put the purchase price. I will put 220K. The property value, that might be different, but let's put again 220K. And the expected rental income, let's put it 1200. And then in 3 data inputs, you can see your first is your metrics and the long-term metrics. And we do it by putting some default values. So in terms of stamp duty, we assume that this is your it's not like a single property you own, but an additional property. But it is a single property. You just need to uncheck and get a different calculation of a stamp duty. We are doing the stamp duty calculation by ourselves, but you can tweak this data as you want. You can also put some refurb costs and play with them. You can put the closing costs and tweak this data as well. And then you basically can put your entire purchase details. The second field is the cash investment. Our default is 35%, but you can play with the slider or just input the data in this box, and you can see how the metrics here change according to the data that you input here. The loan side of that, of the deal analyzer, is also is calculated by default. So we take the LTV according to the cash investment that you put and the minimum between the purchase price or property value. But you can also play with that. So let's say you want to increase your LTV or reduce it, you can do it and see how it impacts your metrics. In terms of the monthly payment, our assumption is 25 years interest only, but you can change it to capital and interest and see how it changes your monthly cost for a mortgage, and also how it impacts your cash flow and the long-term metrics. Another thing you can play with is like the holding period. How many years you want to hold this property? Our default is 10 years, but you can look at a longer period or a shorter period by playing with this slider. You can also click on holding period breakdown, and you can see your property value, balance, equity, net cash flow, and the NOI over the years. And you can also put your assumptions for the long term. What will be your property appreciation, the annual appreciation? What will be your rent appreciation? And also, what is your assumption on inflation that can also impact some of the long-term metrics? And during this week, we will deep dive into those metrics and explain each one of them and why is it so important to track them. You can also play with the occupancy rate. So of course, when you purchase a property for rent, there is no guarantee that you will have like tenants like 100% of the time. So you should put some assumption. Our assumption is 25%, but you can change this assumption and see how it impacts your metrics. You can also play with this slider. And the last thing is the operating monthly expenses. Our default for managing agent fee is 10%. You can play with this input as well. You can put your landlord insurance, service charge, ground rent, and if you have any other monthly costs that you want to predict, you can put them and see how it impacts your first year and long-term metrics. So I think like brief overview of Deal Analyzer, this is it. Any change on the input can change the metrics. You have some advanced pop-ups that during this week, we will also deep dive into those pop-ups and how they can give you more data when you analyze a new deal. And last thing, you can save this deal. And after that, you will see it on your My Portfolio as a prospect property. And we will also provide the demonstration on how to do it, how to store your prospect properties on My Portfolio, and how you can look on your pipeline along with your existing properties. And this is also something that Landlord supports, and we will touch it during this week.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that everybody watching agrees with us that this is a really amazing and groundbreaking deal analyzing tool. For this installment of our deal analyzing week, we have just scratched the surface. We've given you a very quick overview to encourage you to go and sign up to Lendlord if you've not already done this kind of environment. We would recommend that when you're putting in estimations, probably go on the conservative side and just make sure you've got a little bit of risk mitigation there by not overestimating things such as the rent you might be getting or the discount that you got from market value. So just a little word of caution there, just to really sort of err on the side of conservatism when you're putting your data in into the fields where you can just put estimates in. But Avram, we saw lots of different headline metrics there, and it was so exciting to see them all changing as you change the inputs. And this tool is real time. It's allowing you to really go and dig deep into your deals, really see things on a very granular level. And tomorrow, as we mentioned, Brian Sparr is joining us. And Brian's kind of like our jargon buster, isn't he? He's going to be going through the different headline metrics, what they mean and why they are important to property investors. And again, this is on a much deeper level than most of the other deal analyzing tools out there.
Correct. Yeah. So Brian will join us tomorrow, and we will deep dive into each metric, what it means, equity multiple, what it means, IRR, GRM, DCR, why property investor should look at these metrics when he's analyzing a new deal, and how to compare your pipeline with those metrics. So, so stay tuned. Yeah.
Indeed. So this has just been the first installment of our Deal Analyzer week as we launch the new Lendlord Deal Analyzer tool. It's a celebration of this launch and really getting everybody revved up to go and have a look at the module and try it out. And we'll also be demonstrating how you can also run your existing properties through the Deal Analyzer tool to get those even deeper, more granular level metrics on your existing stock. So it's not just for new purchases, it is for existing stock as well. So join us tomorrow. We'll be joined by Brian Sparr from the States and Aviram, of course, as our Deal Analyzer week continues tomorrow, and we hope to see you there. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and off you go and try out the tool. Thanks, Aviram.
Thanks, Vanessa. Bye-bye.